This is the Ace Pro from Insta360. In this video, I'm going to walk you through every button, setting, and feature of this powerful action camera. On this channel, I share all the latest action camera news, reviews, and how-tos. So like and subscribe to learn how to get the most out of your camera. Let's start by going over the physical features of the Ace Pro. We have the high quality Leica lens. It has a 1/1.3 inch sensor, an aperture of 2.6, and an equivalent focal length of 16 millimeters. Here we have the front display. It tells us the battery life, how much storage we have left on our SD card, the shooting mode we're in. We have our resolution, our frame rate, and our aspect ratio. And here is one of two status indicator lights. Right below the lens, you see this little dot here. That is one of three microphones. We have the front microphone, a microphone here on top of the camera, and then our last microphone is here on the right side of the camera. On top of the camera on the left hand side is the shutter button. When the camera is on, if you press it once, it will take a photo or it will start or stop a recording. If you long press, it will cancel the recording. When the camera is off, if you press it, the camera will automatically turn on and start recording, but that's only if you have quick capture enabled. I'll go over that setting later on in the video. On the right hand side is the power button. If the camera is off, you press it once to turn the camera on. If the camera is already on, you can press it to switch between modes. If you want to turn the camera off, you long press for 1 second. If you long press for 5 seconds, it does a forced shutdown. On the right hand side, right below the power button, is the USB port cover. You slide that down, flips up. You can also completely remove it. You have the USB-C port and the micro SD card slot, and the cover is easy to reinstall. On the left hand side, there's the battery cover. Push, the door comes open, and we have the tab here. There's a large rear touchscreen, and on each side you have these release buttons. You push them in and the screen flips up, and you can even flip it like that depending on what kind of angle of view you want. In the upper left hand corner is the second status indicator light. On the bottom of the camera, there's the speaker and the mounting latch. Included with the camera is the standard mount, and the latches on the top go with the latches on the bottom of the camera, and it uses magnets to quickly and securely attach to the camera, and you push on the buttons to disengage. You also get the flexible adhesive mount. Now this is a one-time use only, so be careful where you mount it. And what really is cool that it is flexible, so it bends here, so that way you can mount it to a surfboard, a helmet. You're not only restricted to a flat surface. This is a universal mounting system, so you can attach a number of items to it. Here we have the flexible selfie stick. Tighten it with the provided screw, and you're ready to record your next adventure. The last provided accessory is a Type-C to Type-C cable. You use this to charge the camera or to transfer data from the camera directly to your computer. Now I'll go over the flip touchscreen. Tap it once to hide the icons. Tap it again to display them. If you swipe down from the top, it brings up the shortcut menu. Swipe back up to get to your main display. If you swipe from right to left, you have some shooting parameters. Swipe from left to right, you have the album. And swipe up, you have more shooting parameters. Swipe down to access the shortcuts menu. Our first icon here in the upper left hand side is quick capture. When quick capture is enabled, if you turn off the camera and press record, it'll automatically start recording We can test that out. The camera is turned off, and instead of pushing the power button, push the shutter button. Camera turns back on and is automatically recording. Push the shutter button to stop recording, and the camera will turn off. The next icon is rotation lock. When that is on, the orientation is locked. So right now the camera is horizontal. If I turn it vertical, everything stays the same. But if I turn it off, right now it's horizontal, but when I turn the camera vertical, the icons reorientate themselves. This icon that's a raised hand, that is gesture control. If you enable that, if you want to automatically stop or start a video recording, you'd raise your palm and the camera will start recording or stop recording using your gesture. Use a peace sign to take a photo. The icon in the upper right hand corner is voice control. When this is enabled, you can control the camera with your voice and select your language, and you have voice commands like take a photo, start recording, stop recording, mark that. Okay, and we'll test that out here. Start recording. Stop recording. So that works well. The icon here in the lower left-hand corner is pre-record. When this is enabled, the camera records the first 15 seconds before you press the shutter button. So let's say, for example, you're trying to record your kid's soccer game. They're just about to score a goal. You push record, and it's a few seconds behind, and you miss it. If this is on, you're going to catch it because it's going to pick up the first 15 seconds before you press record. The icon that looks like a movie reel with AI is AI highlight. When this is on, the camera automatically highlight what it feels are the best moments in your recording to make it easier when you go back to edit. It will jump to those highlight moments to see if that's what you're looking for, as opposed to trying to scroll through 30 minutes of video only looking for that one special shot. The icon that looks like a sun is your screen brightness. Let's say you're outside and it's really bright. You're going to have to amp up the screen to see it, but you want to try to keep it as low as possible to save your battery life. The icon that looks like a lock in the lower right hand corner is the screen lock. When this is on, you don't have to worry about accidentally pushing something. So the screen is locked, and if you need to unlock it, you just swipe up. Swipe to the left to see the remaining options. Our first one here on the upper left hand side is the sound prompts. High, medium, low, mute. The icon that looks like a bell with light rays coming off of it is the status indicator light. Right now the indicator lights are off. There's the one here on the back and one on the front. You turn it on. Now the indicator light is on in the front and the back. The icon that looks like a hashtag is the grid lines. Right now it's on, and you can see the lines vertically and horizontal. If you don't want those, it's now off, and they are gone. The microphone icon in the upper right hand corner is for your audio. Right now it's set to stereo. We can do wind reduction or direction focus, and the icon changes on the screen to let you know which mode you're in. The icon here in the lower right hand corner that looks like an alarm clock is time capture. When that is enabled, you can set the time for the camera to automatically turn on and start recording. An example of when you may want to do that is, say you're trying to catch the sunrise and you know when that's going to start. You put the camera in the location you want, have the time set, it will automatically turn on and catch the sunrise while you're sleeping in bed. Our next icon is Bluetooth remote. If you have the GPS watch that's offered by Insta360, you can connect that using Bluetooth. There's the icon that looks like two pairs of Apple AirPods. Click that and you can connect Bluetooth headphones to the camera, also microphones. Okay, gonna test out the Bluetooth headphone pairing. I have my Beats here. Okay, go in there, it's searching, hold down the pair button on the headphones. And it found them. The last icon in the bottom right hand corner is settings, and we'll go through all these settings next. Now we'll go through the settings. First one we have here is camera info. That just gives you your firmware version, your serial number. Next we have general. You can turn the vibration off and on. You can turn off the feature to long press to cancel your recording. Next we have Bluetooth wake up. When Bluetooth wake up is enabled, you can turn on the camera using the Insta360 app. I'll do a quick demonstration of that. The camera is off and I'm in the Insta360 app. Hit wake up. The camera turns on. So basically you can turn on your camera using the app. External mic gain. If you have a mic hooked up to the Ace Pro, like say the DJI Mac 2, you can control the gain levels. With auto power off, you can set how long the camera will sit dormant before it automatically turns off. Go from never to 3 minutes. Next we have screen auto sleep. The camera will stay on, but the screen will go black. You can set that to never. You have the option here for screen off during recording. That will help save with battery life. Front screen display on or off. I like to have it on so I can see the information, but if you don't want it, you can turn it off. Now it is blank. Touch to activate when off. So I'll turn that off and demonstrate it. The screen is asleep. Touch to activate is off. If I touch the screen, nothing happens. The screen is off, but touch to activate is on. Touch the screen, it brings up the display. That's all the general settings. Next we have Wi-Fi settings, and I just leave that on auto, and the Wi-Fi settings relates to how the camera communicates with your phone. There's power off charging. If the camera is off and connected to power, it'll charge only. Here the camera will charge and power on. Here we'll charge and record, and you can adjust that when the camera is disconnected from power, it automatically stops recording. Set your shooting mode, specifications. Next there's image settings. You have anti-flicker. I usually leave mine on auto. If say you're recording inside there's a TV or there's flashing lights, you might get that flicker in the video. Auto should take care of that. Whether you choose 50 or 60, but it depends on which part of the world you're in. I believe in the United States, you want to have it set to 60. There's video encoding. You can select between H264 and 265. Generally, I leave mine at 265 because that's the most efficient. Yeah, bit rate between high and standard. I select high, so there's more information, which is better if you're trying to do any editing of your photos or videos. You can select your language. Several to choose from. You can set the date and time. SD card, you can see how much space is available on your SD card. You can also reformat it, but don't reformat unless you're sure you want to delete it, because once you do that, it is gone. You can recalibrate the gyroscope. When you do that, you want to place it on a flat surface. Press start. And it did it that quickly. When you first start the camera, it comes with already preset tutorials to help you through basic functions, and those will go away after you use them. If you want to bring them back, you would do that here with reset tutorial. If you want to reset your camera back to the factory settings, you would select reset camera, and certificate information is just legal junk. The first mode we'll look at is video. We have our icons. Up in the upper left hand corner is how much storage is left on the micro SD. In the top right hand corner is the battery life. Tap and see that percentage. In the bottom right hand corner is the field of view. You can select horizon lock. With this, the horizon stays level even if there's movement from left to right. Dewarped, a field of view should get rid of some of the distortion. Ultra says it's good for hiking, scenery, outdoors. And action is skiing, cycling. So depending on what look you like and what activity, you decide what field of view you want set on. This is clarity zoom. With this, it will zoom in 2 times and keep the same image quality. Here in the bottom left hand corner, that's the shooting mode we're in, and we're shooting at 4K 60 frames per second. You can tap and check out our stabilization. You can have it off, low, standard, high. Our aspect ratio got 16:9, 4:3. Active HDR, if that's on, you can shoot stabilized HDR video. Duration, that's how long the camera can record. Set it forever, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. You can set the resolution to 8K. At that, you can only record at 24 frames per second. 4K, you can go all the way up to 120 frames per second, all the way down to 180p, and we can record at 240 frames per second. And when we swipe from right to left, that brings up our other shooting parameters. Here in auto, you have our exposure and settings. So you can have the standard profile. You can go to a vivid color profile, flat color profile. You'd want this if you're going to do some color correcting and post-production, and then various pre-made profiles based on your environment. You can adjust your exposure value. Face priority, the camera will prioritize properly exposing your face. This is low light stabilization. Oftentimes with electronic image stabilization, and it's not very good. This is a way to improve the stabilization in the light, and Insta360 does a good job with the light stabilization. It works well. You have the white balance set to auto or to manual. And here you have your image sharpness. Generally with digital cameras, you want to try to keep the sharpness down to low or medium. Then you go over here to the manual settings. And here you can manually adjust your shutter speed, your ISO, your white balance, your sharpness. If you swipe from left to right, that brings up the album page so you can see the photos and videos you've already recorded. They have a trash can to delete. Over here you can go into grid view of seeing the files you have. You can select all of them, or you can just select individual files. Swipe up to go through them. The next mode we'll look at is pure video, and you want to use pure video if you're trying to record in a low light environment. The icons layout is the same. The only difference is the shooting parameters. If you swipe up, you see here you can adjust the aspect ratio, the duration, the resolution, and the frame rate, but you lost the other settings that you'd have in the standard video mode. If you swipe over, you see here there is no auto or manual. You can only adjust the exposure value, turn on or off low light stabilization, and the auto white balance. And this is one of my favorite modes because it allows you to shoot in vertical or horizontal and adjust it in post. So you see there is an outline for the vertical frame and the horizontal. So when you are doing your shot, you can make sure everything is framed appropriately for horizontal and vertical video. It has all the same icons that we're familiar with. You swipe up, you can't change the aspect ratio. It does have the active HDR, so you can get stabilized high dynamic range videos. You can adjust the recording duration, and you have a resolution of 4K only, and your frame rate as high as 60 all the way down to 24. Swipe over, you have all of your image settings. You can change your color profile, your exposure value, prioritize your face when it comes to the exposure, the low light stabilization, white balance, and adjust the sharpness, and the manual settings. Also, free frame has an additional field of view option. So you have your ultra, your dewarped, you have horizon lock, and with that the horizon stays level if you move it slightly to the left or right. And here you have 360 horizon lock. Here you can rotate the camera 360 degrees and the horizon will stay level. Time shift, that is a time lapse, but you are moving. All the icons are the same. If you swipe up, you can adjust the stabilization between off and standard. The aspect ratio is fixed at 16:9. You can set your recording duration, and you can only shoot in 4K at 30 frames per second. The next mode is time lapse. Swipe up, and you can have stabilization off or standard. Typically, you don't need stabilization for a time lapse because the camera is supposed to stay stationary. You can adjust the aspect ratio between 16:9 to 4:3. And if you see here, it says City Rush, and this is telling you if you have a video that is 5 minutes long and it takes a shot every 2 seconds, that's going to give you a 5 seconds video, which would be good for a city scene. But if you take the length out to 30 minutes and then have it take one every 10 seconds, that 30-minute video is going to turn into a 6-second video and is good for dynamic clouds. Swipe over to the image settings. You have the color profiles you can pick from. You can adjust the exposure value, the white balance, and the sharpness. You don't have the setting for face exposure because you're not going to be putting your face into a time lapse. And then you have your manual settings. The next shooting mode is loop recording. With loop recording, the camera is continuously recording but only keeps the last segment. This is a good mode maybe for a dash cam or recording a trick shot where you weren't recording all the time, but you're only really interested in the last 5 minutes. When you swipe up, you can adjust your stabilization. Your aspect ratio got 16:9, 4:3. You do active HDR with stabilization. Here's where you adjust your loop duration. You can go as high as 30 minutes all the way down to 1 minute. Your resolution, you have max of 4K at 60 frames per second. You can go all the way down to 1080p, but your frame rate stays at 60 frames per second. Swipe over. You have all of the image settings, your color profile, your prioritized face for exposure, your white balance, exposure value, low light stabilization, sharpness, and all your manual settings. The next mode is slow motion. Swipe up, you're going to adjust your stabilization. The aspect ratio is set at 16:9. You set your recording duration. The max resolution is 4K at 120 frames per second. If you go to 2.7K, it's still set a max frame rate of 1/20. If you drop it down to 1080p, then you can go all the way up to 240 frames per second. Swipe over, you can adjust your color profile, white balance, exposure value, sharpness, and you can manually adjust your settings. The next mode is Star Lapse. If you swipe up, you see you can pick your type. You can do a Star Lapse video, Star Trails video, or a Star Trails photo. You can pick your aspect ratio 16:9 or 4:3. You can set your video duration. Over here in format, you can do a pure shot, and the camera will automatically adjust the photo to get the best quality. Or you can do pure shot plus raw, where you get the pure shot file format, but you also get the raw file if you want to do your own color correction in post. The resolution is set at 9 megapixels, and you can set a start timer. Come over to the image settings. You see here, you can only adjust the exposure value or the white balance if you leave it in auto, or you can go over to manual and adjust the settings. The next shooting mode is photo burst. In photo burst, the camera will take several pictures in a short period of time. If you swipe up, it's set to take 10 pictures in 1 second. You can set to take 30 pictures in 1 second. You can adjust your aspect ratio. Your format, do JPEG or pure shot. The resolution is set at 9 megapixels, and you can set a timer. Slide over to the image parameters. They are somewhat limited. You can adjust your color profile, the white balance, and the exposure value, or you can go into the manual settings. Interval is a photo mode, and it will take a picture at a set interval. Swipe up. You set it to take a picture every 3 seconds, all the way up to every 120 seconds. Your aspect ratio 16:9 or 4:3. Set your duration. For format, you can do JPEG, pure shot, or pure shot plus raw. Resolution, you can set a max resolution of 36 megapixels, or you can take it down to 9 megapixels. And then you have a shutter timer. Come over and check out the image parameters. You can adjust your color profile, your white balance, and your exposure value, or you can go in the manual and adjust them manually. We have another photo mode, HDR photo. The camera takes a high dynamic range photo. You slide up. You can't adjust the format. You have to do pure shot. You can adjust the ratio between 16:9 and 4:3. Resolution is set at 9, and you can set a timer. Come over here and check out the parameters. The only thing you can adjust is have it properly expose your face and the white balance. Everything else the camera is doing. We have the standard photo mode. Swipe up. You can select your format between JPEG, pure shot, or pure shot plus raw. Aspect ratio 16:9 or 4:3. The max resolution is 36 megapixels. You can take that down to 9, and you have a timer. Swipe over to the image settings. You have the auto settings and your full manual settings. That's all the video on photo modes. So now let's check out the presets. You can set preset settings based on the activity that you're doing: biking, skiing, surfing, scuba diving, vlogs, or you can make a custom setting, all the way from custom 1 to custom 5. Let's say you're a bike rider, it already has 4K 60 frames per second, 16:9, but you want to go in and change that. So you can change, your stabilization, your aspect ratio, your resolution, your frame rate. You can go from manual to audio with your settings and your field of view. So that way, when you're about to go on your bike ride, you don't have to mess around with any settings. You just go to your bike setting and you're ready to go. Let's say you want to do a setting for cinematic video. You can put in custom 1. And you want to go 4K, and you want to set the frame rate to 24 frames per second. Then you go down to your shooting parameters. You can go to manual, and since you're trying to be cinematic, that means you're going to need a shutter speed of 1/50, and you will want the de-warped look, and you are all set for when you want a cinematic shot. And you can go and change and edit any of these. We've covered all the settings and modes of the Insta360 Ace Pro. To learn even more about your camera, check out this video.